So this is going to be the book of Proverbs Bible study. I'm going to go through the book of Proverbs chapter by chapter. I'm going to read each chapter and then afterwards do a little quick Bible study. I say quick, but hey, who knows? It may be quick, might be long. But the whole point of this is there's 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. I want to read all 31 chapters and uh, discuss it. I'm gonna share some of the insight that I took from reading the chapter, and we'll just kind of talk about it. You guys feel free to jump in the comments and let me know what you think. The reason why I picked the book of Proverbs because I'm going through a season in life right now where I'm seeking wisdom and knowledge. And the book of Proverbs is a book of wisdom and knowledge. It was written by King Solomon, who is the son of David. Solomon was contributed as being the wisest man in all of Israel. And that wisdom came through divine intervention, through the power of God. So I want to read through some of the information that Solomon wrote about. These are proverbs that he wrote, either ones that he wrote or things that he didn't write, but he ascribed to. So if you think about it, it's like you you listen to an author, or you read books from an author, you listen to a podcaster, and you subscribe to what they believe, and you share what they believe. That's what Solomon did in some of these writings in there. So let's just go ahead and get into it. I'm going to be doing one of these every single day for the next 31 days. So definitely feel free to jump on and follow along with me. So Proverbs chapter 1 says, the beginning of knowledge. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equality, to give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning. A man of understanding will obtain wise counsel. To understand a proverb and in an enigma, the words of the wise in their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Shun, my son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a grateful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait and shed blood. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoils. Cast in your lots among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owner. Wisdom calls aloud outside. She praises her voice, and in the open square she cries out in the chief consorts. At the opening of the gates in the city, she speaks her words. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refuse. I have stretched out my hands and no one regarded. Because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke. I will laugh in your clamority. I will mock when your terrors come. When your terrors come like a storm, and your destruction comes like a whirlwind. when distress and anguish comes upon you. Then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord. They would have none of my counsel, and despised my every rebuke. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own ways, and be filled to the full with their own fancies. For the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complacency of the fool will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely, and will be secure without fear of evil. So that's Proverbs chapter 1, right? That's Proverbs chapter 1. That's the whole thing. Proverbs chapter 1 is kind of broken down into 3 different parts. The first part, Solomon tells us what the beginning of knowledge is. The second part, he tells us to shun away from evil counsel, or to avoid those people who would give us evil counsel. And then in the third one, Solomon tells us that wisdom is calling out to all of us. We have to be willing to listen to that wisdom and then put it into practice, right? So let's go and kind of break this down real quick. Like I said, I wanted to go read the proverb and then kind of break it down a little bit. And then I got a couple of questions that I'm going to talk about too, just to kind of give you guys some food for thought. But what do you think about this? So it says the beginning of knowledge, right? This is written by Solomon, and he tells us that the beginning of knowledge is to have a fear of the Lord. And I think that sometimes we hear the fear of the Lord and we think that that means that the Lord is coming to punish us or something like that. Having a fear of the Lord means having a sense of reverence. It means acknowledging who God is, how God performs in our life, who he is in our life, and then being able to yield ourselves to him as our Lord and Savior, right? So to have a fear of the Lord does not mean that we are afraid that God is going to strike us down and send us to hell. I mean, those are real things. Those are things that we do have to be aware of, and that we are have to be cognizant of. You have to be aware of that. But that's not what having a fear of the Lord is. That's having a fear of hell, or having a fear of being rejected, but it's not the fear of the Lord, right? So for anyone who watches this, that's a parent, you can kind of understand this. When you're dealing with your kids should have a healthy sense of reverence for you, right? That means that when you speak, they take what you say to be wisdom and knowledge, and that they know that they can apply that to their lives. And the farther we get into this book, the more you'll find out that Solomon actually talks about us as in our youth, and how the youth is shunning away from knowledge. So that's pretty much verse 1 through 7. Verses 1 through 7 is him telling us what is wisdom, and how do we find wisdom. I like the part where it says to know wisdom and instruction, to prescribe to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instructions of wisdom, justice, judgment, and equality, to give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discernment. To the young man knowledge and discernment. Listen, young men, to someone, I'm a young man, right? And for me, there are tons of young men out there that I think are missing out sometimes on knowledge and discretion. So the book of Proverbs tell us that as old men, we are to pass this information down to the young men. And as young men, you are to receive this knowledge and use it to live a better life. So 1 through 7, and then we get into verse 8. Verse 8 is where he tells us to shun evil, right? So verse 8 through verse 19, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8 through verse 19, is Solomon telling us that we are to avoid wicked counsel. I'm reading from the ESV, by the way, so anyone who's following along, I'm reading from the ESV. So, some of my words are different, but it says, "My son, hear the instructions of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a grateful ornament on your head and chains about your neck." oftentimes as parents, when we're giving advice to our kids think that we just want them to do what we want them to do. And sometimes that's very true. Sometimes we just have that motive. We just want them to do what we want them to do. But oftentimes it comes from a place of knowledge and wisdom, right? We have an understanding that supersedes their understanding. I was telling our teenagers in the house the other day, I literally have lived twice your life. So if you have we got a 19-year-old, you have her life. She's only been, half of her life is only 8.5 years. I remember her at eight and a half, and to her now, it's like, yes, you have more knowledge, you have more understanding, but there is so much more understanding and knowledge to be gotten, right? And as children of God, we have to understand that same thing. Yes, you have wisdom and knowledge, but there is so much more wisdom and knowledge to be understood. There's things that my mom said to me as a kid that are just now starting to really mean something to me now that I'm an older adult, right? Now that I'm at the age that my mom was when she was saying these things to me, now they're starting to make sense. Things that my friend's father said to us that in the time frame we didn't care about, when they told us to invest in soybeans back in the 90s, and when he told me not to spend all my money when we would go out cutting grass when I was a teenager. We just wanted to party and enjoy ourselves. We didn't care about that. We just needed enough money to go and get a bucket of chicken at the gas station. I'm from Mississippi. We sell full course meals at the gas station. We go get a bucket of chicken from the gas station. Everybody can split something to eat. We do some other nefarious things, maybe. And I'm just being honest with y'all. Get the crackhead to go in the store and get us something to drink. That's all we cared about in our youth. We didn't care about the wise counsel that was coming from our mothers and fathers during that time frame. It says, my son, verse 10, my son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lay in wait and shed blood. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. This is literally happening today. Okay, there are literally youth today. I live in the Nashville metropolitan area. Every single day I hear about some youth, someone under the age of 20, committing serious life altering crimes. And I'm not just talking about life altering crimes for themselves. I'm talking about life altering crimes for all of their victims. There are teenagers out stealing, breaking into cars, stealing cars, killing people, killing each other. And some of that is people not shunning the evil counsel, right? When you're young and you need to make some money, and somebody say, well, I know how we can make some money, you got to be able to have that discernment to avoid that evil counsel. And then again, as the older generation, we got to be willing to reach out to the younger generation and let them know that, hey, there is a better way. Not all of them are going to take the wisdom, but some of them will, right? Verse 13 says, we shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoils. 14, cast in your lots amongst us. Let us all have one purse. Verse 13 and verse 14 of Proverbs chapter 1 really reminds me of the angels when the angels fell from heaven. If you remember, there were the watchers who were watching mankind, and they saw the women and they wanted the women, so they devised a plan to go down and sleep with the women of earth. And this really reminds me of this. When those angels made that decision, they came to an agreement with amongst each other. They went into a covenant, and then they went off and they broke God's commandment to them, and they were punished for that. But of course, verse 13 and 14 just kind of gave me that imagery whenever I read that. 15 says, my son, do not walk in the ways with them. Keep your foot from their path. Don't walk in the way of those people who are doing evil deeds, okay? Don't follow in the path of the wicked. I know that TV and media has this way of both glamorizing wickedness while condemning people who do wickedness at the same time. But then we also, I don't know, it's odd, right? We live in a very strange time right now. The news will tell you about things that are going on that are harmful to people, harmful to all of us, right? Harmful to society. They would tell you about these things. They will inform you about all of the misdealings that are going on throughout the world. But then that same TV channel soon as the news go off, will put on shows that glamorize robbery and killing and murder and adultery and all of these different things, right? So don't walk in the path. Verse 14 is saying, my son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your feet from their path. For their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Don't be a part of the world, right? We already know that we're not called to be a part of the world. We're called to follow the word and not to be a part of this world, because this world is wicked. We see that the world is wicked. There's a lot of wickedness going on. Verse 17, surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, but they lay in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of anyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owner. So I mean, again, we see that too. When you are living a cricket life, a lot of times you meet a cricket end. A lot of people say, well, why do evil people get to live so long? Well, because everybody has the right to find redemption. To be honest with you, that's a very tough thing to deal with, and that's not what this video is about. So I'm not going to dig into that. But I think everyone has a right to redemption, right? Everybody has the opportunity to receive redemption. But I also believe that what this is saying is that when we run, when we consent and we openly come into agreement with wickedness, it cuts our life short, right? Many times in the Bible, it tells us to heed the words of our fathers or our mothers or those who that wise counsel that comes before us, because that will make our life long and prosperous on this earth, right? That means that learn from the mistakes of others, right? Solomon is writing these proverbs, and a lot of times in here you'll hear him say, "My sons," and it made me think, like, okay, was this really literally him writing a book of Proverbs to his son on, hey, this is how to live a good life. These are the things that I've done wrong already. I'm telling you not to go out here and do the exact same things that I've done wrong. We live in a world where our generations are repeating the same cycle over and over and over and over again. Yes, we're making progress. So, we're going through the same things that they went through 100 years ago. They just didn't have cars and the internet. Like we're not really learning sometimes from the past and from history. So that's what I think the book of Proverbs is telling us, and that's perfect to understand getting into the next part, which is the call for wisdom. That's chapter 20 through 33. It's pretty much the call to wisdom, right? It's calling us to wisdom. It says that it's telling us how wisdom calls out to us, and I thought that this was beautiful, right? Proverbs verse Proverbs chapter 1 verse 20 through 33. And I'm not going to read it all the way through. I'm going to probably read it and break it up. But it says, wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the open square. She cries out in the chief concourse. At the opening of the gate in the city, she speaks her words. Wisdom is calling out to us, right? There's an understanding. Like, we can, when we take in information, we can take that information in with the intent of entertaining ourselves, or we can take it in with the intent of gaining some type of wisdom from it, right? When I watch a TV show and I see that someone went out and committed a crime, or someone went out and did a thing, and what the repercussions of that thing was, I now have wisdom of what that thing could potentially get me, and then I can make better choices on how to avoid that same outcome, right? Wisdom is literally calling out to us because we have the ability to learn from each other, from others, from the Bible. The Bible is written for us to learn from. uh Verse 22, how long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? For scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Ain't that crazy? Fools hate knowledge. Um, it's always funny how, when you were in high school, when you were in elementary school, and you saw someone that was the intelligent person, it was always the class clown that picked on them. And not saying that the class clown was a fool, but knowing that they were a fool. I'm not gonna even try to sugarcoat that, right? The fool always makes fun of the knowledgeable one. It Fools don't like knowledge. Fools run away from knowledge. The foolish person is the person that you could tell what the outcome is. You could say, hey, if you do this, this will happen. And they do it anyway. I tell you, my son earlier today, my toddler, he's 3 years old. He's jumping on the bed. He's jumping off of our bed, running, across the hallway to his room and then running back and jumping on the bed again, right? So I told him, I said, hey, be careful. Hey, be careful. He jumps off the bed one more time. He runs around. He gets on the bed. He jumps off. He stops. He looks at me. He said, I'm not being careful, right? So in my mind, when he said that, in my mind, I was like, you fool. Like, not that I think my son is a fool. I'm not saying that. But in that moment, in his lack of understanding, because he hasn't hit his head hard enough. He hasn't fallen and hurt himself. He doesn't even know what a broken arm or a twisted ankle is. So in his foolishness, he thinks that it's funny to say, I'm not being safe. I'm not being careful, right? It was funny to him. And it's like, that's what we do though, right? We can know that this is the outcome for my actions, but we still do it. You know, Paul said, why do I do the things that I know I should be doing? I don't do, and the things that I don't want to do, I do. That is the ongoing battle for us. But we have to seek wisdom, because wisdom will help us to make better decisions. Once you got burnt by the stove, you didn't touch the stove the same way anymore. And if you did, I mean, aside from being intellectually challenged, you're a fool. You get what I'm saying? So it says in verse 23, turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called you and you refused. Oh, wait, I'm going to stop there. Turn at my rebuke. This is verse 23. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you, and I will make my words known to you. When knowledge rebukes us, right? What does that mean to be rebuked? Rebuked is kind of like being one could say rejected, one could say is being corrected, one could say is being not judged but critiqued, right? That is a way of rebuke. We rebuke our kids when we tell them don't do something, when we give them, especially when we give them the reason for not doing it, right? When I tell you don't make a mess, don't, again, with my 3-year-old, and I say don't pour that cup on the floor. I rebuke him when he poured a cup on the floor so that he can learn not to make a mess. But sometimes we refuse to be rebuked. Some of us as adults, we refuse to be corrected because we become adults. We think that we already know it all. No one can tell me because I already know, because I've already been through it. And when we refuse to be, when we refuse knowledge, knowledge refuses us, right? We refuse wisdom, wisdom refuses us. It says that if we turn to the rebuke, God will pour out his spirit on us. And he will make his words known unto you, right? It's like when Jesus talks about talking in parables. Jesus talked in parables because it was for the disciples. He talked to them straight. He wanted them to know 100%, this is what I'm saying. But when it came down to the world and to the other people, Jesus said that they have to find this out for themselves. You have to seek after this knowledge, right? We think that knowledge is going to just fall in our lap. Sometimes it can, right? It happened for Solomon. Solomon prayed when God asked Solomon what he wanted. He said he wanted wisdom to lead God's people, right? God can supernaturally, people say supernaturally. It's natural because it's God. It's all natural, but we're going to use that word because that's the word that people understand. God can supernaturally give you understanding. That is 100% true. But, and not even but, most times God requires you to seek that understanding first before he supernaturally makes it known to you, right? There's a lot of information that are hidden in the pages of the Bible that we just have to seek it out. We got to read it and we got to break it down. That's the reason why I wanted to do this Proverbs study chapter by chapter and then kind of breaking down it line by line, is because we have to not just read this. We have to pull out the information, pull out the wisdom so that we can use it in our day-to-day lives, right? So it says that God will make his words known unto us. Like wisdom will make his words known unto us, and we will have a better understanding. Verse 24. Verse 24 says, because I have called and you refused, I have stretched out my hands and no one regarded, because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your terror comes. When your terror comes like a storm and your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. When we don't take knowledge, when we don't receive knowledge and wisdom later on in life, it's gonna laugh at us. I didn't understand this the first time that I read this. It took me reading that part a few times. Not necessarily took me a few times to understand it, but like to really put this into perspective, right? So what I'm gathering from this, right? This is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 24 through 27 right here. It says, because I have called and you have refused. Because I have called and you have refused. That means that knowledge is seeking out to us and we turned it down. You ever went to give someone something that you knew that they needed, but when you went to give it to them, they refused? I heard someone say that there was a homeless guy out on the street and they gave him some food, and the homeless guy threw the food back at him and said, "I ain't asked for that." Right? Sometimes when we are in need of something that is being provided to us and we don't receive it, it's at our own detriment. Right? It says that I have stretched out my hands and no one regarded, because you disdain all my counsel. Because we have refused knowledge. When it's time for us to have that knowledge, it won't be there for us. Again, makes me think about the youth of this world, right? The youth of our current generation. We can go about life forsaking knowledge and forsaking the wisdom. Our parents, you come in every night, your parents tell you, hey, don't be coming in late, don't be running with these people, don't be hanging out with this crowd, don't be going to these places, don't be doing these activities, right? We ignore it until you find yourself in a situation where it's like, man, I wish I had foresight, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that. Now you have wisdom, and that wisdom is not on the right side that you needed it on. When you needed that wisdom to be profitable to you was before you got yourself into a situation. Now that you're in a situation, that wisdom is there. You still have it, and you can still share it with others. It can still be used. It can still be valuable, but it doesn't help you in your situation sometimes. And there are, I think about people who live their life, kind of wild and free, right? You hear this word YOLO, you only live once. That is very true, but then it is going to be very interesting when I get to the older years of my life. If God, blesses me to make it to that time frame, there's going to be a lot of 70 and 80-year-olds when I'm 70 and 80-year-olds that are going to have nothing, because they're allowing their wisdom to they're forsaking wisdom now in their younger years, and then when they're older and they need that wisdom, it's not going to be there available for them. Those resources are not going to be there available for them. And we see that a lot, again, currently in this day and age. We see a lot of people who are going through the storm and going through the whirlwind. I'm not saying everyone that's going through a storm or a whirlwind is because you forsake knowledge, but a lot of times it is. I found myself in some sticky situations that when I look back on it, it was all me. It was all me not taking. You say, oh, I should have seen the signs. Oh, I should have done this. I knew I should have went the other direction. That was wisdom knocking at the door. That's wisdom calling out. Wisdom saying, hey, don't go over there. Hey, they already told you don't hang out with them. Hey, that person already done showed you that they only care about themselves. Hey, don't go. Wisdom is constantly calling out to us, rebuking us, correcting us, guiding us, right? But sometimes we don't hear it. Sometimes we hear it and we go the opposite direction. Sometimes we literally hear it and we go the opposite direction, because this is not what I want to do. I want to do what I want to do, right? I don't want to do what wisdom tells me to do. Sometimes I just want to do me, YOLO. But this is saying that when we need wisdom to come to our aid, to come to our defense, that wisdom may not be there to defend us, because we've forsaken it all these years. And then we got verse 28 through 33, right? It says, then they will call on me, but I will not answer. Then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me. Diligently. Okay? Now here's the thing, right? How many times have you not prayed until you found yourself in a situation? And then you start diligently praying and fasting and, all these different things, because now I'm in a situation. God, I need you to come save me. I need you to come save me. Please come save me. God is saying, come to me before that. Before you need saving, before you need me to pull you out of that situation, come to me and let me know what you got going on. Again, as a parent, right? Come to me before you find yourself in trouble, son. Don't find yourself in trouble and then say, Dad, come and save me. Mom, come save me. Come and pull me. Come and be my firefighter, my rescuer. Put yourself in danger to come and save me. Not saying that I won't, right? Jesus leaves the 90. Jesus says, "Good shepherd leaves the 99 to come after the one." But listen, one, don't be that one that's always got to be going off the beaten path. There's always got to be straying away from what the shepherd is telling you to do. Sometimes we have to learn how to be obedient and how to just accept knowledge, accept wisdom, and how to and seek out how to use it. But don't diligently seek after the fact, right? It says they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, right? They hated knowledge, didn't want knowledge, right? Again, you tell somebody something, especially the younger generation. Again, I say the younger generation, I was that same hothead, right? I joined the Marine Corps at 18. I was telling a young man this the other day, because at the age of 18, I knew that I was ready to kind of be out on my own. Not that I had, I knew I was ready to be out on my own. I knew that I was ready to kind of chart my own course. So I joined the military. It was going to get me out of my mom's house. Not that I had any problem with being in my mom's house, but my mom was a single parent. I didn't want to be a burden on her, so I chose that route, right? And y'all, I had to do a lot of learning. I made a lot of bad mistakes. There was a lot of times that I should have went to someone who was an elder of mine, who was wise counsel. I've gotten some bad counsel from some people who I thought I was getting good counsel. But here's the thing, though. It says that you would know them by their fruit, right? If we're getting counsel from people with bad fruit, we're gonna give bad fruit. You get your counsel from people who are already giving out good fruit, because they're going to help you to give off good fruit, right? You getting marriage counseling from the person who's been through 6 divorces and going on their 7th. That's not going to help you stay married unless you're taking that and using it in a wise way, right? You can take marriage advice from someone who has a failed marriage. They're telling you what not to do sometimes, right? But if you're looking for somebody to tell you how to live a life that is yielded to God, they got to be following that and doing it themselves, right? The fruit has to be there for you to follow behind them. And you know, don't be that person that seeks diligently after the fact. We don't want to do that, right? We want to have a healthy fear of the Lord. We know that the Lord loves us. He cares for us. He he died for us. He created this world for us, this earth for us, and we want to respect that. Verse 30 says, "They will have none of my counsel, and despise my every rebuke. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their own ways, and be filled to the full with their own fantasies. For the turning away of the simple will slay them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil." Okay, that's a powerful opening to Proverbs, right? Proverbs chapter 1. This is pretty much Solomon telling us a few things. He said, in the beginning, knowledge starts with a fear of God. It starts with a reverence. Ah, it starts with a reverence. I'm not gonna get that word right. I told y'all I'm from Mississippi now. My speech be all over the place. It's a healthy fear of the Lord though. It's not us being afraid of the Lord like we think that He's gonna strike us down. Not that He can't. He can. He can. And He has, right? We see that when you read through the Bible, you know that God don't play, right? But it's like anybody who's watched the Game of Thrones, there's a certain level of respect that the king just gets because he's the king. God is the king. He's the King of Kings, right? Jesus is the King of Kings, right? So from my understanding, right, knowledge starts with a fear of the Lord. Once we have that healthy fear of the Lord, we understand that. We go to Ecclesiastes. I like Proverbs. I like Ecclesiastes. I like all of the writings that are by Solomon. Right? Solomon was a very wise man. David was a very wise man. I think that it's very fitting that the two of them are such prolific writers in the Old Testament. So I like to read Proverbs, but I like to also keep Ecclesiastes in the back of my mind when I'm reading it because, in Ecclesiastes, Solomon told us that everything is vanity and vexation under the sun. If you're not living your life for a life yielded to God, that everything else is just vanity and vexation. It doesn't mean anything. It's nothing, right? You can get as rich as you want to get in this world, but if it's not yielded to God and being used for the things that are going to help to benefit the kingdom of God, then it's vanity and vexation. It's all going to be left, and someone else is going to enjoy that when you're dead and gone. So how do we make sure that we're living a life that is yielded to God? Like I told you guys, I'm seeking wisdom right now. Like I am seeking wisdom. I am diligently seeking wisdom because I don't want to have to be absent of that wisdom at a later point in life. And there are going to always be things that I don't know and I don't understand. But I believe that when I take that to God and I let him know that, hey, I'm trying to have an understanding of this, he makes that understanding known to me. Right. And I hope that the same is true for anybody that's watching this video. Um, we have to have that healthy fear of the Lord, and then we have to shun evil counsel. Okay, if you're if you're handling your relationship based off of what the radio DJ said, I think I used to listen to the Steve Harvey morning show, and I always thought it was funny that when people would call in for the strawberry letter on that show, they would call in and air out all of the stuff that's going on in their life so that they can get advice. And it makes me think about the fact that we're always constantly looking to get advice from people, and we aren't vetting the source of that advice, right? Is this advice rooted in the Bible? If you're a follower and you're getting advice from people that's not rooted in the Bible, that's not rooted in Scripture, it may not be good advice. It's probably 9 times out of 10 not good advice, right? We want our advice to be rooted in the Word, but evil counsel, they say misery loves company, right? Evil loves evil company too, I guess. I don't know. I ain't got no rhyme or no neat saying for that, but like evil people want you to do evil things. They want you to be a part of their evil activity, their nefarious deeds. So when you seek evil counsel, when you seek counsel that is not of the Lord, it says evil counsel, but this is just bad counsel. This is an extreme case. But this is what we see in this world today. There are young people out killing, stealing, robbing, making decisions that will have their, a 16-year-old going to jail for the rest of their life, because they made a decision to do a thing that they shouldn't have because they were probably potentially being counseled by the wrong person. Some of them are being counseled by the TV. The TV tells us what to do. The music tells us what to do. I have a love hate relationship with modern hip hop. Right. I enjoy hip hop. I enjoy rap. I was a big Lil Wayne fan. I knew all of the Carter's albums. But in my recent years, I've been getting away from that. I've been changing up what I listen to because what I realize is that the things that I listen to, the things that I allow into my portals, into my ear, into my eyes, into my mind, that affects what comes out, right? It's like the fertilizer that you're putting into your body, right? You're putting all of this fertilizer, these images, these TV shows, these music videos, they're all going into your mind and they're fertilizing your brain to give forth fruit. And that fruit is not going to be good and healthy fruit if you're taking in bad fertilizer, right? Bad media and all these other things that are influencing these people to have to be this way, right? We glorify the robber and then we get mad when we get robbed. Well, there's literally movies out there that glorify robbing. There's music that glorify robbing. I again 3-6 Mafia fan to the core. When I was a kid, boy, I had all of the 3-6 Mafia. I'm from Mississippi. I'm from about an hour and a half south of Memphis. Like, we listen to a lot of 3-6 Mafia. I can't listen to it no more, right? Because it's all about robbing and killing and stealing. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to be that person. So why do I want to listen to that for 10 hours out of my day, influencing my brain? But that's what's happening with our youth. Our youth is being spoiled. They're being fed the wrong stuff, and that's the fruit that they're putting out. And we have to take some responsibility for that, and they have to take responsibility for that. Them more than us because it's their lives, but we have to look at that. Sorry, y'all, got a little something in my mouth. And then the call for wisdom, right? The last part of chapter 1 is telling us that wisdom is always calling out for us. Wisdom is found after every endeavor, right? I always say that without the test, there's no testimony. But then the wisdom is what comes after the testimony. Wisdom is the thing that comes after you've gone through something and you have a better understanding of it. You can say, I'm either not going to do this like that again, or I would do it like this the next time. I would do it exactly like this the next time. But now you have wisdom. And with that wisdom, you have knowledge that you could pass on to someone else. Now, see, here's the thing, right? My wisdom becomes someone else's knowledge. When I have wisdom in an area because I have an understanding of it and I've been through it, I can then pass that information on to someone else who has not been through it yet, and now they have knowledge of it. They don't have wisdom until they've gone through it as well, right? So, but with that knowledge, they can navigate it better and come out even stronger. So now when they give their wisdom to the next person, that wisdom is even stronger because they were able to add to the wisdom that I gave them. That is exactly what I think Solomon is doing in the book of Proverbs. He's giving the wisdoms to his sons and to us, as a result of that. And because of that, we are able to take these instructions and these parables and these poems, and we're able to look at our lives and say, okay, am I doing this? Am I living my life like this? Am I living a life that is yielded to the Lord? Am I being obedient? Am I doing the things that God is telling me to do when God tells me to do them without a whole lot of back talk? Not saying that God don't allow us to back talk. I think that everybody's relationship with God is slightly different. However, when we look through the Bible, there are plenty of times when God tells somebody to move, and He just means move right now. I'm not telling you multiple times. And then there's other times when God was a little bit more patient. Look at Ezekiel. He came and gave Ezekiel a nudge 2 or 3 times. But when you hear God talk to Ezekiel, He says, if you don't go and give this information to them, that blood is going to be on you. You have wisdom and knowledge in areas that you're supposed to share with other people, and you don't want that blood to be on you. I don't want that blood to be on me. So I had some questions, some reflection questions that I wrote down when I was going through this. I'm just gonna read those off. You guys can feel free to jump in the comments and break that down. I will come back tomorrow and make another video. I'm not sure exactly what time I'm going to be doing these lives. It's kind of around my schedule right now. But I'm going to do chapter by chapter. So today was chapter 1, Proverbs chapter 1. Tomorrow we're going to do Proverbs chapter 2. But reflection, think about what does it mean to fear the Lord, and how does that shape your daily choices? And if it doesn't, how can you incorporate a healthy fear of the Lord into your daily life so that it can influence your day-to-day life, right? If we think about doing everything with God first and foremost, then we'll know that we're always going to succeed. How does Proverb 1 warn us about the company we keep? Right, Proverbs 1 has a whole section dedicated to watching the company you keep. Watch who you go and get answers from, or who you seek advice from. So after reading over that, what does that make you think about your circle and the people that you normally go to? Do you go to people who you know are going to give you scripturally backed advice whenever you're having a problem, or do you go to that friend who you know going to give you that hood advice? They're going to give you that street advice because that's who they are. We know who we going to, right? When I want to get a yes from a friend, when I want somebody who's gonna just make me feel good, who's gonna join in on whatever I got going on, I know what friend to go to. I know which friend to go and tell that story that's gonna get heated and ready to throw them hands faster than anyone else. So who am I going to when I have issues? Am I seeking out wise counsel? Number 3 is, in what areas do you struggle with seeking wisdom instead of trusting in your own way? I think that, again, like a lot of times we struggle with going to God, asking God to give us wisdom in a certain area, but the struggle is for each individual. We all have a different area of our lives that we are struggling with going to God for. Somebody is an addiction. Somebody is it's heartbreak. It's loneliness. It's understanding. It's a lack of knowledge and wisdom. But are you taking it before God? Are you taking it before Him with prayer and supplication? And who are some of the voices of wisdom in your life? Your mother, your aunt, your father, your cousins, your pastor, your teacher. your coworker at work. Who are those people that are the voices of wisdom in your life? And if you don't have anybody in your life that is the voice of wisdom, then you need to get somebody in your life that is the voice of wisdom for you. But who are the voices of wisdom in your life? Who are the people that you know you can go to when you're having those troubling times and you need to talk about something? But you don't need somebody who's just going to try to make you feel good in a situation, or somebody who's just going to try to appease your feelings. Who are the wise people that you can go to seek out that information? And if you don't have anybody, definitely work on getting somebody. We all need somebody. If you're the person that's giving out wisdom to all the people in your circle, somebody's got to refill your cup, right? And let me clarify that even more. God replenishes your cup anyway, but it does not take away from the fellowship and others who are also seeking to have a life that is yielded. And then, how do you handle correction and discipline? Right? It talks a lot in chapter 1 about the forsaking the rebuke, the knowledge when it rebukes you, forsaking wisdom when it rebukes us, when it corrects us, when it disciplines us. How do we accept that? When I'm getting corrected on something, do I take it as positive, as something that's going to make me better, or do I take it as something, as do I get defensive and I take it as something that is tearing me down or beating me up? How do you accept correction and discipline, right? Because this it really matters, right? When God is correcting us and disciplining us and rebuking us, how are we accepting it? Are we taking that constructively and saying, okay, God, how do I do X, Y, and Z to make this better in my life? Or am I saying, well, I've tried my best and this is, like do we get defensive in those times? And if you are one of those people who get defensive in those times, how do you fix that, right? How do we work on being more humble with correction and with being rebuked? How do we work to make sure that um we're learning from the things that wisdom and knowledge is trying to instill in us, the things that the Holy Spirit is trying to put into us? So, all right, I'm going to end this video. This is Proverbs chapter 1, and tomorrow we'll do Proverbs chapter 2. There's 31 chapters in Proverbs, so for the next 31 days, or for the next 30 days after today, I will be doing every chapter of Proverbs, and we'll be breaking it down and going over and talking about how does this relate to our modern life? How does this relate to your life? How does it relate to my life? And how do we become people that can better use the Bible to live a better life? So I'm going to close in a quick prayer, and then I'm going to hop off. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Definitely drop a comment if you did. If there's questions or you got some comments or some additional thoughts, drop a comment. I love to know. Um, Lord, I just want to thank you for allowing us to gather together on this video. Lord, I pray that whoever needs to hear this message, Lord, that it will show up on their timeline, Lord. I pray that your wisdom and your knowledge, Lord, will continue to seek after us, Lord, that you will help us to become the people who can open our ears, Lord, and receive it. Lord, I thank you for all of the proverbs, all of the wisdom, all of the parables that are spread throughout this Bible, Lord. And I just pray that you will continue to open our minds, our hearts, and our souls, Lord, that we may be able to take it in, and not only take it in, Lord, but that we be able to put it to work in our day-to-day lives, Lord. How do we use the information that you already given us to practically better our position in your kingdom, Lord? How do we make sure that we are living up to your standards for us in your kingdom, Lord God? We just thank you for continuing to use us, Lord, and pray until tomorrow that everyone has an amazing time. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. Peace out. Again, hopefully somebody got something from this. I'm not a videographer. This is not gonna be like prime time theatrics and all this other stuff. I'm sitting in my basement right now. My 3-year-old may be running around one day while I'm doing this, but I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to spread the word. I feel like um, God has been giving me a lot of knowledge and a lot of wisdom, and I think that it's our place to share that, right? I got cousins and brother. I got a brother, sister, cousins, uh, you name it, relatives all over, all over the place, right? And I just want to make sure that we are all going to be living a life that gets us to the next step, right? I don't want to have any of my people be left behind. I don't want any of my people to find themselves forsaken, especially not because we chose to not take wisdom, especially when God gave us wisdom in the books in the Word. Um, Solomon gave us 3 books of wisdom, and I think it's only right that we break it down. So thank you guys. Oh, got some lightnings. Again, I'm new to this live thing on like lightnings and roses, but thank you very much. I think that's Strashing Wheat. Oh, that's a good name. I like that name. Thank you very much. Yeah, man. Matthew 28:19, man. I'm just trying to take ownership of that and allow myself to be the vessel that I keep praying to God to use me as. I keep praying every single day. I'm praying that God would use me and that He would send people, and um, He's been making it known that He's already done that, and I just need to start talking and sharing the word. So that's what we're gonna do, y'all. I love each and every one of you, even if I don't know you yet. And peace.